We're gonna just like we're just acknowledge the fact that I got a coffee delivered.
Flying in.
A coffee delivered in the middle of the interview. Like again, a little bit of a crazy person.
You quite recently released your EP, The Evolution of Mike Shinoda, and I thought maybe you could just, after releasing it, give us a bit of insight in like the progress and the process of picking the songs and releasing it.
I mean, it's not really a release as it is just like a playlist. That thing is just, it was something that we talked about to kind of just like tie the threads together of like some of the stuff that I had done with Linkin Park, and then the sound of the new song of Already Over.
And was more like a process. You really picked those songs because you liked those songs, and because it was like there was so many songs you could put in a playlist.
Yeah, it had to be those. I mean, those types of things have to be short. You know, you don't like they don't. Yeah, that's not really how it's done. But more importantly, I think that this in the beginning of December, I'm putting out an EP that is like, that's a proper EP. So the Crimson Chapter EP comes out in the beginning of December, and that is like, basically, it was built on the idea of like Already Over, of taking Already Over and extrapolating like doing remixes and interpretations so that we can support the song, not distract from the song, but like support it and make the world of this little song bigger, if that makes sense. So it's like 8 tracks.
Yeah.
And most of them are the one song, and then there's like a remix of a song called Fine that I did, and then we put In My Head on there as well.
Yeah, I saw it was like some mixes, and most of the songs said it was the Already Over, this mix, that mix.
Yeah.
And there was also one thing that caught my eye. It was the part 2.
Yeah.
There was this one song, part 2, and I was wondering, like, that could be a mix, but it could also be something else.
I think it's pretty different. I mean, people know, you know, we've done a lot of different, I've done a lot of remixes, going all the way back to like Reanimation from Hybrid Theory. Our remix album for that was called Reanimation. And I grew up listening to like alternate versions and remixes from like Nine Inch Nails, who Trent Reznor would remix like everything they did. Like they'd put out an album and then they'd have this crazy remix album with like avant-garde noise versions of the songs, and then like entirely new versions of the songs that are so different they're almost like a new song. Fast forward from there to like stuff like Biggie and a lot of hip hop artists in the 90s. They would do remixes where they'd put tons of different people on it and make like an almost brand new song. There were remixes of Biggie songs that were not anything like the original. It was an entirely new song. They just like, put the old name on it. So I don't know. I think because I grew up on a lot of that stuff, I love the idea of taking something that's familiar and flipping it and making it more interesting.
And if you do that and do all the mixes and put some different artists in there and some different vibes, does your view of that song change during the mixes? Do you see that song with like from different perspectives?
There have been times when we've done something on a remix that influenced how we. So what would be an example of this? I know that we did it. I just can't think of which song. There are a few Linkin Park songs where when we went on tour, we started playing the remix version, or we just played like a version that mashed up. There's like part of it that was the album version, then part of it was the alternate version. There were times when I like just randomly like took a rap verse from a weird remix and like did it over top of something else. Like there's a lot of different ways to play with it. It's almost like Legos. You know, like you have this song made of different Legos and you can like remake them into something else. And then if you want, you can like pull some of the pieces out and use those in a different way.
And you could also pick 2 different Lego sets
Totally.
and
I love
mix
that.
them up.
Yeah, yeah. Hence, like our, collision course thing with Jay-Z was like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have like already a vision for your future evolution? Because we had the evolution of Mike Shinoda now. Do you have a vision on how maybe with all those mixes, your future will further evolve? Or is it just like...
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I hadn't thought of it that... I don't know if I'm thinking about it that way. I'm as I go, usually I'm looking at like from project to project, I'm looking at like what can I learn? What can I get better at? And I mean, other things like that. But it's generally a little bit more of like what's just right in front of me and barely beyond that. Occasionally there's like, I think occasionally there's like these moments where it's really important to look super far away. And at this moment, I don't think I have a clear enough picture of like what next year would look like in order to make an assumption about 5 years.
Okay.
Which is very different from like back when we were in early days of Linkin Park, when we were like on our 3rd album, we were thinking like, this is where we would want to be in 20 years. That was very, and it was really important to do at that point. I think this point is different in the sense that I don't want to be making rigid plans. I want to be making very, very flexible plans.
Do you think that does that have anything to do with like, when you started your music career, you were quite young. You were like a young artist, and over the past like 20, 25 years, you've done so many things that you just got more relaxed than you were before? Or was it just...
Yeah, maybe. I definitely, well, there's moments of it, there's parts of it that are more relaxed and parts of it that are not. Like I feel like right now I'm very particular. I'm in a phase where I've been very particular about the aesthetic of what we're doing. I think there was a moment when I like looked at my Instagram feed and I hated what it looked like. It was just like looked like a mess. The aesthetic of it was everywhere, and part of that was, sometimes that's a necessity. Just like I'm doing a lot of different things that have a lot of different looks, and if you put them all on your feed, they look a certain way. It looks like messy, but you'd never. The point being, like, if you were looking at Apple, or if you were looking at like something like that, like you'd never get that. You're always going to get something very consistent. And there's a part of me that loves that. Do you know those, like, when you like go on somebody's feed and it looks like they live inside of like an IKEA or something, like they live, like, that's yes. like the colors are all exactly the same, and everything they've bought is like brown and beige and olive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you feel like doing their Instagram is their job.
It's their job.
Their feed
so much work to do that, right? I don't know why I look at that and I go, that makes me crazy. That whatever's going on there, like, is way too much. And then yet, there's another part of me that aspires to be that crazy. Like, just not that version. I don't want it to be beige. I want it to be like black and red. But yeah, it's like there's this whole moment of like, there's this whole like, hi Jim. We're just acknowledge the fact that I got a coffee delivered. A coffee delivered in the middle of the interview. Like, again, a little bit of a crazy person. I'm sorry. Yeah, when it comes to like the aesthetic of this versus some stuff like in the past few years, I think that there were some points in the past few years where I was just experimenting and being very loose about it. If you look at like, I put out a song called Happy Endings with Upsal and Ian Dior, and that moment was very loose. Like it was just kind of a little crazy, a little post-COVID, just trying stuff out. And now it's a lot, I have definitely like a very specific vision for what this needs to look like and what the universe that this song or these multiple songs come from. And I'm already thinking like into next year about, okay, how does this evolve? Like if this were a story arc, how does it evolve into something else?
So you see your music evolution also as your Instagram feed. It's like a different kind of Instagram
You're
feed.
putting words in my mouth.
No, I'm just kidding. But it's like,
know.
I love that metaphor.
Well, it's like, yeah, so let's use a different metaphor because you, like, it does sound bad when you say like it's my Instagram feed. If you look at it like a gallery art show, I have an idea of what I want the room to look like, what I want all of the work to look like. And it started with just 2 songs. It started with In My Head and now Already Over. And I'm trying to I want to build out a little more of the room. Like I want to build out a little more of the world. If you go on the website, if you go to MikeShinoda.com right now, actually it'll send you to a website called survival.com with a 1 for the I. Anyway, it'll send you to that, which is a game. And the game is like based on these like monsters. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have seen it. It's like
okay.
also it's on your Instagram and the website.
Yeah.
It looks like straight of the 2000, like the game 2000, like with all
the toys.
The toys
Yeah.
and it gave me the vibe of the Tamagotchis and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
in like-
but when that started, the first thing they saw was just like, okay, you're gonna get this eerie, old school video game. It was almost like more text based, and there was like a faceless character who's like basically enlisting your help to like take care of this critter. We call it a critter, and when people finally got the reveal of what it looked like bacteria or like a virus or like something like that. Like they were really surprised at because that's not what a critter is. Like they're like, okay, great. So I'm taking care of like a mushroom. I don't understand what this is. And then over time we revealed these things actually evolve. And then so they started thinking like you were just saying like, oh, this is a pet that you care for and you grow it and then it's my little pet. So the next evolution, they realized, oh, these aren't friendly. Like they're not nice pets. And so now we've, gamed it out. It's like we're at the full evolution of these characters, and they've realized that they're monsters. And your monster is going to go to battle with other monsters, and we've made this little world where they're all fighting each other. And we've got some great prizes. I set up some great prizes for all of the people that get the most points in this battle mode. And then, after this, like that goes on through this month. And then after this, if people are still into it, like if they continue to play, that'll indicate to us that we can keep building it. Because I don't know, I hope they still play. If they do, we're going to continue to build more into the game.
Okay, so it could go further.
But that's when I say like I have to be flexible. Like I have to react to how the fans are playing the thing. If they get to that point and they say, okay, the contest is over, now we're going to stop, then we stop. But if they keep playing because they enjoy it and they're having fun, then I can, the team and I will continue to put more activities into the game.
In that context, like, have you ever thought about your music in that way? If like that it is important that the people pick it up and like relate to it, or and if not, does it affect you making music?
If it doesn't, if they don't react to a song,
they don't react, or if for a long time they would not react or it would shift, would that change
Yeah.
something in your feelings about making the music?
I mean, over time, it always changes. Like, there was a time where when you put an album out, the impact of the album could last a really long time. Like, you'd put an album out, we would go on tour way back forever ago. We would go on tour for 18 months off an album. And now, like, nobody goes on. I mean, people go on tour for like 2 months, 6 months maybe, right? Because things just move differently and they move faster. I think that maybe, you know, I don't think in terms of like, I don't let that part drive my creative process, but I'm also not like blind to it. Like I'm okay with the idea that separating out, like, if you were to take all the things that I normally would do for an album and then chop them up into little pieces and then just release them bit by bit, that approach excited me a lot on this one. Cause I get I don't wanna be just like constantly like, new song, hey everybody listen to this song. Okay, new song, like over and over and over again. I think it needs to be, for me to like stay excited, I need to have that variety of doing different things.
Did that change over the years? Like, is making music, did the process of you making your music change in the last years, or does it feel different to you?
Subtly, it does change. Like, there are parts of it that are always the same, and there are parts of it that change based on like what I've learned in the moment or what's exciting to me in the moment. So like, here's an example, like writing a good melody, writing a good chorus, words and melody. There are parts of that are gonna be timeless. Like, the thing that I'm doing today is not that much different than the thing I would have done, 15 years ago. But I have learned over time how to get better at that process. So like, there are times like back then in the earlier part of our career, I would really develop a track first and like have something that sounded very finished, and then I just kind of vibe on that, and whatever things came to me, I just started plugging them into the song. These days, I don't complete the track. I get the track just barely started, if at all, and I go straight into like, what's the hook of the song, or what's the core like point of the song. Sometimes that's the verse. There are times when the verse is really memorable and I'm like, oh, I have this idea. This will be the best way to start this song. This verse, when it comes in, you'd be like, oh, I'm asking questions. Like a good verse to me, like one thing the good verse will do is it's like a good trailer for a movie, or a good like first scene in a movie where you go, okay, tell me more, right? So if I can get some of that material early, that's part of like knowing the art form, like knowing the processes of how to achieve good results and make it artistically like fun and inspired to do it. Like, so you're not like, just like, it doesn't feel like flipping McDonald's hamburgers. Like I'm just doing the dumb thing over and over and over. I never want to feel like that when I'm making music.
That makes sense. When you wrote Already Over, you already said that you've been doing music for a lot of people, been writing, and you wanted to do something for yourself. Like, how did that feel like after doing so much music for yourself, for others, not for yourself?
Yeah.
Because that was quite a time.
I did, yeah. So for a few years, in the last, actually I'd say even before COVID, I was doing sessions with other people, and I met a few people that I really liked that like for example, Jake Torrey, who I wrote In My Head with Jake. We had done a couple sessions for other people, a guy named Colin Britton. And we all kind of like, they kind of knew each other. I kind of met some of them and I was like, these guys are really good. Like they're just so fun to work with. And so we started working like in different combinations. I started meeting other artists. I did a track for Demi Lovato. I did a track for Paris, Grandson, Sueco, and a number of other people. Like those sessions, like everybody writes differently. Everybody comes at it different ways and there's a different psychology. Like I know for example, that if I'm working with like G Flip and Grandson are very, they're almost like a little like ADD. Like they're very excited, but they'll get bored really fast. Like if you stay on a thing for too long, they're gonna start to feel like, is this any good? Like I'm getting like, why isn't this song getting done faster? Like the ideas aren't coming out fast enough. And so you really, with them, you have to keep things moving. Whereas Lynn from Paris is a much slower, like thoughtful, like we might talk about something, I might suggest something on the song and Lynn might go, yeah, maybe. And that's not a no or a yes, it's just like, let's try it and see. And then like we'll work on it and it might be like, let me think about that a little bit. So you gotta know kind of who you're working, and other artists, by the way, sometimes you need to give them a lot of verbal reinforcement. And I have to be much more animated about like, this is great, like really, really good. That performance you just is incredible. Because if I don't do that, they're gonna just feel like, is this not good? Like, am I just not on it today? Am I not? So you have to like lean into the psychology. With that said, that's one reason why doing stuff on my own, like making a song like Already Over just for myself with no other people, nothing. All that stuff I just described, I didn't have to do any of that. Like it's nice to like take a walk away from that a little bit and be like, okay, that's now the only person whose psychology I have to worry about is my own. And what do I think? Is this idea exciting to me? Like, is this fun? Is it good? Whatever.
Great. You already talked like you were writing songs for a lot of different artists, working with a lot of different artists. Is there like an artist from a really different genre that you would like really like to work with, maybe even together or writing something for them, where you'd be like, oh, that'd be fun?
Okay. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm really always really hesitant to answer that type of a question because I feel like there's so many, if I go on record and I say this person or whatever, then it's almost like pressure to like make it happen. And the other thing I'll say is I'm not actively trying to do sessions with people, so I'm gonna say these things and then not follow up on this at all. But here's what I'm listening to that I think are great. I just checked out that Kevin Abstract album's great. 070 Shake, incredible. I feel like there's a couple other ones. I do love Dominic Fike. I love Gene Dawson. Gene Dawson has been putting out insane stuff. Ash Nico. I like listen to a lot of music anyway, so I could just keep going, but I think of like I'd call them all like younger generation. Like I feel like they're all making really incredible stuff and they're not brand new. Like they've got enough stuff under their belt that they're like coming into this very experienced and mature artistry in their careers. Each of those people, I think, that I'm excited to hear what they do next. And I don't know if I could be helpful.
You were talking about like the younger generation, like they are a younger generation. You kind of started when you were younger.
Yeah.
Is there something that you learned that you would really wish to tell your younger self about the music career, or maybe other young musicians?
Shockingly, I don't think so, really. I mean, just in terms of like, everybody's gonna figure it out as they go, right? So, like, you're faced with questions and issues and stuff, and thankfully I don't have any, there's not any spots where I went like, oh, we like really screwed that up. Like, I think we did all right. And I think for me, one thing that I if I were to talk to my younger self and say, yeah, that's really good. Like, do more of that, or keep your mind focused on that. One thing is like to not be distracted by trying to appease like an invisible other with the stuff that you're making. Like, if you're in a creative situation, whether it's a song or a project or it could even be on tour. It could be decisions you make on the road or in your set, or if you're like a painter or whatever. If you are doing a thing because people will like it, it's probably not ideal.
They would probably not like
it. But you have to, as you're doing it, you do have to actively focus on, do I like it? Because I will, at least. I think most people are the same though when they're making stuff. Like, you'll get a little confused with like, do the people in the room like it? Like, you'll hear other people in the room saying they like it, and if you go, I think it's okay. We played a thing, I wrote a lyric, they love it, I think it's like fine. Don't do it. Like, do it when you go, this is great, and they go, this is great. Then that's the bullseye.
So going with your own flow, kind of like not with the others' flow.
Well, because people will do, I mean, I hear all the time, I hear people do this whole mental gymnastics about like things that are trending, what's hot, and what people will like, what fans will like. Oh, my fans expect me to do this. It's like, no. Like, don't, that's not, people made fun of Steve Jobs because he said this thing about basically that amounted to people don't have imaginations the way that creators have imagination. I'm paraphrasing, this is not what he said, but the idea was like, the reason we can surprise people is because they don't know what they want, and we create the thing that they go, oh my God, now I want that. But before that happened, they didn't know what it was that they wanted. It's that somebody with imagination made a new thing, and it surprised you, and you went, oh wow, I want that. Because if you just relied on people to say to tell you what to do, I think a lot of artists get into this rut then of making the same thing, because the fans' imagination of it is never going to be, they're not pulling from the source. The source is inside you. So pull from there. Don't pull from their expectations. That's not the source.
It was really nice talking to you. Thank you so much for your
You too,
time.
thanks.